They thought the eve of war would sound like drums, like speeches, like destiny calling its champions to the field. But for Zegion, the eve of war sounded like silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind that hunts you. Deep in the labyrinth, where light only exists because monsters allow it to, Zegion stood already awake while the world above still debated survival. He was never meant to be here. Not like this. He was just a concept, an insect guardian, a clever ambush predator designed to scare adventurers after they survived the heavy hitters. That version of Zegion died without anyone noticing. What replaced it was not an evolution. It was a declaration. Under Veldora's laughter, under reckless training that bordered on abuse, under the quiet, terrifying optimization of Raphael, Zegion stopped being a creature that followed rules. He became a being that enforced them. His body reshaped itself, not toward beauty, not toward majesty, but toward efficiency. Humanoid, lean, every movement sharpened, every instinct refined. A warrior, not a hero, not a king, a weapon that learned how to think. By the time the Empire began setting the stage for war, Zegion was already living in a future where that war was over. He did not wonder if enemies would come. He wondered if they would be worthy. When challengers died one floor below him without ever seeing his face, he did not celebrate. When Apito dismantled crusaders with surgical precision, he did not interfere. When Alberto turned elite knights into students through humiliation and endless defeat, Zegion watched. Always watched. Because Zegion's power is not impatience, it is restraint. The Labyrinth, during the eve of war, was not a dungeon anymore. It was an ecosystem, a hierarchy of apex predators who had outgrown the idea of defense. And among them, Zegion did not rule by command. He ruled by gravity. Monsters aligned to Rimuru, yes, but Zegion aligned to something narrower, something purer. Purpose. I was a god to him. That single line explains more about Zegion than any stat sheet ever could. Rimuru was not just a master, he was meaning. Zegion did not grow strong to protect Tempest. He grew strong to justify Rimuru's faith. Every punch, every adaptation, every ruthless calculation was an answer to a silent question. Am I worthy to stand beneath you? So when the Empire finally moved, when Ramiris rewrote the Labyrinth into a sealed execution ground, when retreat was erased as a concept, Zegion did not feel excitement. He felt relief. At last, a test that mattered. The meeting of the 10 dungeon marvels was not a council of allies. It was a lineup before Judgment Day. They didn't discuss whether to kill the invaders. They discussed how efficiently. Floors rearranged, Dragon Lord chambers expanded, escape removed, victory redefined as survival against inevitability. And then came the line that changed everything. Rimuru said he'll be watching. That was the moment Zegion truly entered the war. For the first time, emotion breached his composure. Not rage, not bloodlust. Resolve, the kind that burns without flame. Zegion did not speak much after that. He didn't need to. His intent was already absolute. I'll be sure to show him just how much I have grown. He does not fight for domination. He fights to be seen. When the Imperial invasion began in earnest, the Labyrinth became a mass grave so quickly that the Empire mistook silence for resistance. Battalions vanished. Communications died. Soldiers marched in by the thousands and never returned. To Zegion, these were not enemies. They were noise. The real battle had not started yet. Because Zegion does not hunt crowds, he hunts exceptions. That is why minutes mattered. Major General Minutes entered the Labyrinth believing gravity itself answered to him, and for a time, it did. Apito's army fell like paper under invisible pressure. Confidence followed him like a shadow. He had never lost. He had never needed to adapt. And then Apito stood before him. Their battle was not elegant. It was ugly, long, exhausting. A war of attrition where pride was stripped away layer by layer. Apito bled. Her hive died willingly to probe limits. Minutes' perfection decayed into obsession. Both reached the same conclusion from opposite sides. The next blow decides everything. Apito chose death without hesitation. Queen of the Needles was not a winning move. It was a statement. She fulfilled her role, satisfied not with survival, but with meaning. Minutes survived, but survival cost him something vital. Illusion. That was when Zegion spoke. Excellent fighting. My name is Zegion. You now officially have the right to fight me. Not a threat, not a challenge, an invitation. Minutes could have rested, could have retreated, could have feared. He did none of those things. Because Zegion does not inspire terror. He inspires compulsion. the need to measure yourself against something final. When Minutes stepped through the vortex, he was not walking into a continuation of battle. He was walking into judgment. Zegion waited in silence, floating above a battlefield made of Imperial corpses. Not as a throne, as a warning. His presence crushed instinct itself. Minutes mistook him for a demon lord, and the correction was worse. "You dare mistake the likes of myself for Sir Rimuru?" That line reveals Zegion's core. He does not elevate himself. He diminishes others for failing to understand their place. 4 elites stood before him, armed, healed, ready. Zegion gave them one rule: there is only one way for you to survive, by beating me. He meant it. The fight that followed barely qualifies as one. Bazan's legendary strike was erased in seconds. Raya died before comprehension. Krishna's Dimension Cutter, a near-divine technique, was met not with effort, but disdain. Ha! Pitiful. Absolute Defense bent space itself. Laws rewrote themselves instinctively. Techniques Rimuru struggled to master flowed from Zegion without thought. Raphael had sculpted him too well, using Rimuru's own cells, their soul corridor. Zegion was no longer just similar, he was converging. Minutes' gravity, his strategy, his defiance, all meaningless. 4 elites, less than a minute, 0 survivors. This is the truth about Zegion's persona. When he decides a battle is over, reality agrees. What shook Rimuru afterward was not the victory, it was the method. Zegion had summoned survivors, healed them, allowed them to fight at full strength, then erased them. Not cruelty, not mercy, demonstration. Zegion is not bound by emotional morality. He operates on something colder and more dangerous: justification through result. He did not ask permission. He did not hesitate, and worst of all, he was right. Even Diablo admitted it. Zegion nearly defeated him. Resistance to fundamental magic, natural supremacy over demonkind, instinct refined beyond reason. He truly is Sir Veldora's disciple prodigy. By the time the war ended, the Empire was irrelevant. The Labyrinth had not defended Tempest. It had redefined power. And then came the coronation. Rimuru rewarded to Zegion and hesitated. Because how do you reward something that already terrifies you? Zegion stood unchanged, calm, already beyond Demon Lord class through instinct alone. Rimuru spoke anyway. "Your strength astounds me. From this day forward, I grant you the title of Mist Lord." Zegion accepted and conquered the power that followed. Souls bent to his will. His exoskeleton transmuted into divine crimson steel, god-class armor born not from craft, but intent. Mephisto, Lord of Illusion, awakened within him, the perfect skill for Veldora's disciple. Perception, deception, control.